Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larby.
Hey everybody, it is Sarah Larby here. I am, as you might hear, the birds chirping in the background. I'm outside on the patio enjoying the beautiful weather, and I hope you guys are too. I am spending a lot of time at the cottage this year, likely about 2 months, and decided to, enjoy the lifestyle, enjoy the time since, we do real estate to be able to retire and take our lives back, take our freedom back. So I deliberately did not rent the cottage for the time being and decided to stay up there. And it's just been great to disconnect and, feel content in really doing not a whole lot of work during the week. And I think, at this point, I'm working 5-10 hours a week. A lot of the Right Club stuff, podcast stuff I still enjoy, but work doesn't feel like work. It feels like, I don't know, stuff I enjoy doing. So, and as you know, and why there's birds in the background is if it's nice outside, summer is so short here, I want to make sure that I have as much time in the sun as possible and I'm outdoors as much as possible. So hopefully this sounds okay and there's not too much wind. But this also is a really cool podcast to talk about lifestyle and being able to manage properties, a portfolio remotely. And today's guest is Natasha Cultraro, who is actually living in Costa Rica and managing everything from a distance and has done a great job. So we talk about many, many things. And when we were recording this, it was still cold in Canada, but Costa Rica is definitely on my bucket list of places to go visit. Natasha and her husband, they began their real estate investing journey in 2006. They purchased a duplex in Oshawa and got into the rent-to-own business, created some deals that way. Their portfolio grew, and then they also started their own property management company in 2017. And in October 2020, they moved to Costa Rica and have been able to continue to build, continue to successfully manage everything from a distance while they don't need to deal with the winters anymore. And it's just very inspirational. And it's so awesome to see people taking real estate, making it work for them and being able to enjoy life because, ultimately money comes, money goes, you can make more money, but time is very finite. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Have a great weekend. And don't forget to leave a rating and review if you enjoy the show. Natasha, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm a little jealous of your view when the camera was turned a little bit the other way there. But for the listeners, where are you zooming in from right now?
I'm zooming in from a little town called Oshawa, which is in Costa Rica on the Pacific coast.
Awesome. It's my next go-to place, Costa Rica. So I'll have to definitely ask you lots of questions about that off air. But what brought you to Costa Rica? Was it always something that you wanted to do? Was it, a goal of yours? How did that all happen?
Yes, absolutely. My husband and I, ever since we were very young, we've always wanted to move somewhere that's warmer, a little more beauty, a little more color throughout the year. And at first we tried California, to be honest, and we were trying to get to California, but surprisingly, it's very difficult for Canadians to get immigration into the States. That was many years ago. And because of the current and the previous political situations in the US, we decided maybe we'll look elsewhere. In the meantime, we traveled to Costa Rica on vacation and we fell in love with it. And then we thought, you know what, we can make this work much faster. First of all, because it's more affordable than the United States, and getting to know it, there's a lot more beauty and there's a lot more positives that we would not get if we were in California.
All right, very cool. Now, what is it that you guys, both you and your husband, do that you can, because you're here, you were saying, for a year. So you've left Canada, a business, your real estate, and you are working remote. And what is it that you do?
My full-time day-to-day income comes from my property management company called Investors Choice Property Management. I have an awesome team in Oshawa on the ground. Danielle, Josephine, and Courtney are amazing. And given, the circumstances, especially with COVID, more and more things are becoming online and remote. I have this opportunity to take this year and come down to Costa Rica. My husband, he works remotely as well. He works for Canadian Tire Corporation in information security. And so we do our same 9 to 5 from home. And then we use the evenings and the weekends to explore and enjoy nature.
That's an amazing lifestyle. I think that's awesome. Congratulations on getting there. So let's take a step back because you are also real estate investors. How did you get started originally?
It was a long time ago, actually. Paul and I started in 2006 when we bought our first duplex. And we were very young at the time, and the mortgage rules were very different. So we were able to get a mortgage with $0 down. So basically we borrowed our down payment. Because we both had jobs, that's all the bank really needed. And we bought a duplex because I was very, I was not in the real estate mentality mind frame yet. I was very nervous. And so I thought, what if we can't make the mortgage payments? What if we lose our job? And so I thought, I want that basement apartment for security. And so it started there. And the reason we chose Oshawa is because, first of all, it was more affordable. In 2006, we bought that duplex for $186,000.
Wow. You don't get that in Oshawa anymore.
Definitely. Yep. And our parents lived closer to there because we were originally from the Toronto Scarborough area. And so it was a little closer to our families and it was more affordable.
All right. Very cool. So what is your real estate investing strategy for your own portfolio?
We've done a couple of different techniques. When we did that first duplex, we refinanced it after 5 years. We pulled some money out. We put it into the next house, which we duplexed as well. And then we did a couple of rent to owns, and the rent to owns did really well for us. We liked the payout of the rent to owns, the scheduling, I should say, because we knew exactly how much we were going to get and when we were going to get it. And those rent to owns really served as additional seed money for the next duplexes. And so we've still been doing duplex conversions since.
All right. So a mix of rent to own and duplexing or converting, really technically a BRRRR strategy. And, we talk about BRRRR a lot and we don't talk about rent to own as much. But can you give us listeners an overview on what rent to own is and the process? Because you're talking about, when you get this cash, you can essentially redeploy it. And that's assuming the tenant buyer essentially takes over the property and owns it. But can you take a step back and just do an overview on what rent to own is and how it works?
Absolutely. It's a strategy where you essentially have an agreement to sell the property to the tenant at a certain given time. And this requires 2 contracts. One is a standard Ontario lease, and the other is an option to purchase contract. And that option to purchase contract has all of the terms that you need to, first of all, protect your investment and yourself, but also to determine that purchase price and at what point the tenant wants to buy. We're very flexible. We've given them lots of different options. So if they wanted to buy at the 2-year mark, this is going to be the price. At the 3-year mark, this is going to be the price. And really, we've had to do a lot of research to come up with those numbers because we want to be as accurate as possible. We don't want to run the risk of the tenant not being able to get a mortgage for an overpriced house, for example. And the alternative is if we undervalue it, then we're still walking away with what we want. So it's not really a bad thing, but theoretically, if we had not rent to owned it, we could have sold it for a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's pros and cons. Obviously, you don't get the lift for the long-term appreciation or really the mortgage pay down per se, but cash flow is a little bit better. So you have, just to summarize, so you've got two essential agreements. You've got the lease agreement, which is like your regular landlord tenant agreement. And then you've got your options agreement where they pay that additional amount. Just curious, where did you actually go to get the options agreement? Did you come up with it? Did you get a lawyer to draft it up? How did you go about getting that paperwork?
We had a partner that we were working with, and he was the one that brought us that paperwork. He had done he had done that strategy in the past.
Okay.
So the first few we did with him, and then we did a couple on our own.
I see. Okay. Awesome. So you were like the passive, money and financing partner for the first couple, got the hang of it, and then went to do your own?
We held the mortgage, and
Okay.
we did the management.
Oh, got it.
And he was actually the money partner. So he was the
Okay.
passive guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very nice. Okay. So that was a good partnership and got you to help, do more conversions. And, when was it that you said, I don't need to be in Toronto anymore or Canada anymore? I can go to Costa Rica. Was it the investments, or was it a mix of the investments plus the property management that helped, be able to give you a little bit more of that freedom?
How we made it happen was a combination of both. So the property management company, it's relatively new. I incorporated in 2017. Although, like I said, I've been managing my own properties and our partners' properties since 2006. But I gave it a few years. Essentially, it was October 2020 when we moved to Costa Rica, and at that point, I felt very confident in the team that we have. Again, Danielle, Joe, and Courtney are amazing, and they're so great at what they do. And with that confidence, I knew that I was able to take a step back and manage remotely, and allow them that freedom to, make decisions and, execute on whatever strategies that we agree to. At the same time, my husband is working, so although we are both working, we are so to be honest, this lifestyle in Costa Rica is allowing us to save a lot of money, because living in Oshawa was very expensive. We had a huge mortgage. Our daughter was in private school, and just the expectations from family and friends were really weighing down on us, and not just the financial stress of all of those expenses, but also the energy that required. We always felt so much obligation from friends and family to be places and do things and contribute. And it was very overwhelming, considering we both work full time and we have our investments that we manage and our portfolio that we're growing as well. So coming here, it feels like we're on vacation. It feels like we are on vacation, because yes, we're still working, but there's so much less pulling at us. And it's just nice to be able to breathe and relax for a change.
There's likely a lot of people listening to this saying, I need to figure out how to do this as well. I mean, this is, you're still working, and it's not like you've, replaced all your income that you don't need to lift a finger for the rest of your life, but you're making it work. And I mean, you probably don't have to be working until that retirement date. You could likely find a job or something that will, just like you guys, allow you to be remote. And I think, the pandemic, there's lots of horrible things that happen through it, but one of the good things I think happened to it is a lot of people realize that they can be more remote, work remotely. They don't need to be in an office so much anymore. So it provides a little bit of that freedom. And I think that you guys ran with it. You took it. That's amazing. So congrats. That's super inspiring. I do want to talk about your property management company. And we'll talk about the actual, what you do offer and all that good stuff. But before we do that, why did you want to start a property management company in the first place?
So when we were managing our own property, so I was managing our properties for about 11 years before I started ICPM. And I I was getting frustrated, and I tried to outsource it, and I hired a couple of other property managers, and I was not happy with their service. And so I thought, you know what, I thought, I need to do something. I need to provide a service, because there are so many property managers out there, and they each have their own style and their own little market, but their own niche of clients, of landlords, and I couldn't find one that fit me. And so I started my own, and I opened it up, and I provide, I like to think that we provide a very high level of service. We have very high standards within the business, within our team, and with our tenants and our clients. And so property management is a commodity. So it's nothing special. It's nothing different that nobody else can offer. But what is different about us is our connection with our clients, because that connection will really tell us how and if we can satisfy those clients.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So are you able to share roughly like how many properties under management you're currently overseeing?
Yep, we've got about 90 units under management in the Durham and Clarington areas.
All right. Awesome. And due to the pandemic, obviously we're hearing a lot of, horror stories on both sides, but a lot of horror stories also from a tenant's perspective, and non-payment of rents. Early on, there was the rent strike discussions, and, and cash for keys. What are you seeing from a property management standpoint with the current tenants?
So in April 2020, when the government first had that miscommunication, or did not choose the correct words to say, if you can't pay your rent, don't worry, something along those lines. When we saw that, we expected the worst. And so we got on our tenants right away. There were multiple communications that went to the tenants saying, this is what you may have heard, just so you know, rent is still due. And it was just that proactive communication and reiterating that over and over. And the majority of our tenants were able to catch up. And so I was very happy with that, because I am very involved in our network, and I speak to lots of other landlords with large portfolios and other property managers as well. And I was very happy to hear that the majority of them in the Oshawa and surrounding areas were getting their rents. So the majority of tenants were continuing to pay rents, whether they were using CERB or if they were still working. At this time, we do have a few stragglers, and we have a few, perhaps 3 or 4 tenants that have just not been able to pay. And we only have 2 tenants that have refused to pay. So of course, we did the N4s and all of the legal strategies and the legal procedures right off the bat. The N4s went out in April, but
the backlog, unfortunately, of how slow the LTB, the Landlord Tenant Board, is.
Yes, and we have been successful with some cash for keys options. So about I would say about 50% of the cash for key offers that we've made have been accepted. The problem is that a lot of time tenants don't have anywhere to go, and a lot of time, if they're not getting money from the government, or if they're not collecting, or if they're not working, then if they move out and they accept a cash for keys offer, they don't have anywhere to go, and they're not going to do that to their families. So those are the ones that we've really been struggling with. We've really been trying to work with that. And there's a lot of other, I could talk about this for a long time. We've had a lot of situations, but I think what I really want everybody to know is that each tenant is different. And really, that relationship with the tenant and understanding the tenant's needs is most important. Because if you want to get a cash for keys offer accepted, you have to know what your tenant wants, and it might not be cash.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said. And also, just even from a landlord perspective, I mean, some landlords might want to do cash for keys, and some of them may decide that, you know what, no, I'm not doing cash for keys. I'm going to take them to court and we're going to go through the process. So that probably affects as well the outcome of how you guys go about doing that.
Definitely. And the problem is the wait, because as they're waiting for those hearings, the tenants are falling further and further behind in rent.
Yeah. This is unfortunately Ontario for us, right? So it's a bit skewed, and this is why screening tenants is critical. Which brings me on to the next thing I want to talk about. So, what are you guys doing in terms of services that you provide? So, of course, there's the management, but are you also screening tenants, placing tenants? Can you share what you do for that?
Absolutely. We've got three main services. The first is tenant placement, which includes everything from taking pictures and advertising, screening, of course, all the way to signing the lease and doing a move-in inspection, collecting first and last, and handing over keys. That's our first service. We have a lot of landlords that like to do their own management, and they just hire us for tenant screening, and that's great. The main service that we have is the ongoing management. So we have a basic package, we have a premium package. Like I said, we have a very high level of service that we provide. We have very high standards for ourselves, and we have very high expectations of our tenants. So to enforce that, we do have different services, and depending on what the landlord's budget is, they can select what they want. We also have a custom package. So some landlords want to do some things themselves, and they just want us to do very few things. So of course we're going to be flexible, and we are lucky that we can have that flexibility with the systems that we have in place and the team that we have in place. So we give them that flexibility. And the most recently popular service that we have is renovation management. We like to see properties before the landlord waives conditions. So to all the landlords out there, if you're not already doing this, if you've put an offer on a property and you've got 5 days for your conditions, give us a call, or at least give a property manager a call and have them come out. Really understand firstly how much rent you can get, so that really makes so that you can have very accurate numbers. But also, and I don't know if other property managers offer this, we will offer suggestions based on the client's budget on how to renovate or stage or really maximize the profitability of the property, either from a rent collection perspective or an overall equity perspective. And that goes to full out renovations. Our last renovation project that we did was a property in not the best area in Oshawa. However, we were able to renovate the upstairs and the downstairs. We legalized it. We brought everything up to code, and we are getting more rents than we thought for that area. And we have A+ tenants because we were able to place them ourselves. So that was a great success story. I'm super excited about that. And that duplex legalization in the city of Oshawa or the region of Clarington, we have so much experience with that. And so I thought, people are calling us and they're asking us these questions. So of course we're going to help them. And of course we're going to open that up to our clientele. And we've had a lot of interest. So I'm really excited about that stream of the business.
That's very cool. That's a great service. So can you just confirm what areas you mentioned Oshawa, but how far, east, west, south, north do you go?
For property management, or
yeah,
for property management, we do all of Durham region. So from Pickering to Oshawa, and we do all of Clarington. So that whole area. And sorry, I'll stop there.
Okay, no, that's cool. I'm just curious if you go up to Peterborough. It was more a question for me potentially for the future, but
yeah, and I'll tell you, Sarah, we've tried to go to Peterborough. Sorry, let me take a step back. I don't know if you want to cut this out or if you want to keep it in.
We'll edit it.
I'll tell you.
Charlie Irwin,
sure.
Make sure that you edit this part out.
Okay.
And then everything moving forward will be back in.
Yeah, unless you want to keep it, but no, you don't want to keep it. But basically, like between me and you, we tried going to Peterborough, and we've interviewed so many people there. and we just can't provide that level of service that we'd like. So because we couldn't find someone that, jived with us, I can't do that. I can't put my name on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's cool. We may or may not keep that, because I think that's good. I mean, it's totally up to you, but I think that's also good to show that if you don't have the right team that you feel comfortable, providing to your clients, you're not going to go into those areas because you don't have the right team. And it's all about the team and the feet on the street and all that stuff. So I actually really respect that. Up to you if you want us to leave it in or not. Just let me know.
If it flows, absolutely. Yeah, it's yours to use however you want.
Cool. Sounds good. So from a real estate investing perspective, not a property management perspective, but in your opinion, does everybody need a property manager at some point? Should people do it self-manage first? Is there, it's not a one size fits all. I mean, I self-manage all of my units, and 6 of those are short-term and the rest are long-term. I'm okay doing it probably at some point when I'm traveling a lot more. I'm going to actually pass that off to a property management company. Until then, it's not too bad. But do you have maybe a couple guidelines that you can provide on, if you want to self-manage, here's some of the stuff that you might want to consider. If not, here are the pros of hiring it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that all landlords should give it a try first. And I think that once they do, they will really have an idea of what the property manager is working with. We really have, as a property management company and as landlords, we really have a disadvantage with the Ontario Landlord Tenant Board. And there's so much we can do. So trying to really knowing the systems and working with them as best as we can, moving and working outside of the systems if we have to, is the greatest, the best we can do. It is literally all that we can do. As a self-managing landlord, we get a lot of landlords who are actively growing their portfolio. And if you're a type of landlord who is actively growing your portfolio, there's going to be a time when you're going to have to hand it off to a property manager, and make sure you find the one that fits your style. Because like I said, it's that connection that makes all the difference. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can you say that again?
Well, no, you were just saying the connections that make all the difference.
Yeah.
But just to recap, somebody starting out, you suggest that they get their feet wet,
Right.
They start self-managing, see how it is. If they absolutely don't enjoy it, then at that point in time, they can pass it off. Or maybe when their portfolio gets large enough, and they want to move themselves out even further, to work on the business, 30,000 foot view rather than so much in it. Or, at some point when you want that ultimate freedom too. Is that kind of maybe a summary of it?
That's right. Yeah. So like you said, the majority of our clients are landlords that are continuing to grow their portfolio, and they need that time and that energy. And there are some that just don't like property management. They just don't like dealing with the tenants. They don't know how to deal with the LTV. And so we get a lot of those as well.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of people when they actually have a tenant that's causing trouble? That's when they hand it off to you and be like, here, have the trouble ones.
Yes, definitely. And actually, to answer your other question, the best thing that a landlord can do for property management to set themselves up for success is to screen their tenants properly. And this is so important that I actually have a, if you, I know this is airing a little bit later. We're recording in January 2021, but we do offer training, and we have a free online training that landlords can watch, and it's how we screen our tenants. And so if you screen them properly, and if you aren't very emotional with that decision, if you think with your head and you think with your gut, those are the two brains you need to use: your head and your intuition, not your heart. You can't use your heart when you're placing tenants, like any decision in business. That'll set you up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. Tenant screening is by far the thing that will predict your maybe peace of mind, sanity moving forward. And, we had 2 or 3 tenants that were like borderline, like it could have gone either way, to the board or not to the board. Luckily, they're actually all out, and it was early on. And it was exactly what you said. We gave them a chance. We're like, and even from there, and I would say, guys, if you're listening to this, go and get the free resource that Natasha was just mentioning about. I mean, like, I've built processes after, a couple like scary kind of, incidents where we weren't sure if they were going to leave, if they're going to pay. And then I just started really hammering down on my tenant screening, and, like after the first couple years, you get the hang of it, you got your procedures and processes, but this is, this is Ontario. It's not Texas. It's not Edmonton or Alberta. So you've got the wrong tenant in there. You're probably stuck with them for 9 months to 12 months after the pandemic. Obviously, it's always slow, but it's going to be even slower now with backlogs and all that stuff. Like, do you know roughly like how long it's taken you? Is it around 9 months, a little bit more, less, to get a non-paying tenant out?
Since the end of March 2020, we haven't had any hearings scheduled. So in December, I heard that somebody had a hearing scheduled for December that was filed in early March before the shutdown. So it was processed at that point and heard in December. The LTB, however, has come up with a couple of alternatives for landlords. Mm-hmm. For example, if a tenant is willing to sign a payment plan, that is a great resource to have, because if the tenant defaults on that payment plan, then that payment plan kind of replaces the hearing. And if that tenant defaults on any one of those payments on that payment plan, the landlord can apply for eviction. So that kind of speeds it up. But the problem is tenants are not signing that payment plan. I think we've had one that signed, and we've tried with several. And for the listeners out there that are looking, just make sure that you get the payment plan from the LTB website. It's not one that you can draft yourself. It has to be that one. And the reason is because there's a term in there that says if the tenant does not pay or breaches this contract, essentially, then the landlord can apply for eviction, and that spooks the tenants. They don't want to sign that.
It's kind of like a catch-22, right? So because even with the Ontario standard lease, and I don't know if different provinces have their own standard leases, I'm guessing so, but they literally spell out what landlords can and cannot do so that the tenant can actually see it there. Granted, as long as you're doing stuff above board, but if you've got a tenant that's going to try to play the game and, all this stuff is in black and white, and the other thing with the Ontario standard lease too, and even the forms, like, this payment plan form, I think it's still very one-sided, but even the lease just doesn't have enough. Like, you really have to, and I'm guessing you have this too, but like an addendum to really cover your butt on everything else. Like, there should be another 20 pages of stuff, and you're not going against what the RTA says, but you need to cover your butt, because that is, in my opinion, very limited to what it should be.
Absolutely. Yes, that addendum is crucial.
So the next part of the podcast is the lightning round. So Natasha, I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Everybody gets the same 5. And you're going to give me the first answer that comes to mind within 20 seconds. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite real estate investing book?
Renos to Riches by Ian Szabo.
All right, good. Number 2, I don't know if you're a podcast listener, but if you do, what is your favorite podcast? Could be any topic.
My friend Melissa Milotti has a podcast called the Namaste podcast, and it is my favorite podcast. She talks about business and spirituality.
All right, very cool. Number 3, what do you do for fun aside from real estate and property management?
I love to paint. I'm not very good. I just love to do it.
All right, cool. I am not very good either, but Those, I remember doing the wine and paint nights. Those are always fun.
Absolutely.
Number 4, if you lost all your money, all your assets tomorrow, how would you start again?
How would I start again? I would create a spirituality retreat in Costa Rica.
Oh, nice. This is very different than any other response we've ever had on the show. I like it. And last question, if somebody has $50,000 and they want to get started investing, how would you recommend they spend it?
A down payment on a duplex.
All right. Awesome. Natasha, where can the listeners reach out and find out more about you?
We've got a website for our property management company. It's called icpmpros.com, or you can email us at info@icpmpros.com. Very easy.
Very cool. And I always ask this at the very end. Any final last words of advice?
Start as soon as possible. The earlier you start, the earlier you can live the life of your dreams.
And the earlier you can travel to Costa Rica.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Natasha, thanks so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I love it.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larby. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?